Welcome back to Anorexic Neats Indulge Mediocre Entertainment. I am your co-host, Grenchler, and with me is my intellectually superior aquatic brethren.
Too true, too true. Professor Whooper here. Minus 20 points for the use of the word entertainment in the acronym, as it already exists in the actual acronym. Average nerds inspect mass entertainment.
Oh, 10 points from Hufflepuff, because we all know that I'm not in a real house.
Hufflepuff's a real house.
Yeah, is it? Is it?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. This isn't the Harry Potter thing. So it's time for episode 11 of Mob Psycho 100, episodes 10 of Kaguya and the Promised Neverland. Sorry, we're always a week behind on Neverland, but that's, it's a free podcast, so can't complain too much. And then Planetace.
What podcast isn't free? Can you think of
aren't there some that are probably paid?
No.
Like, what about Patreon? Don't people have Patreon exclusive podcast episodes probably?
I doubt it. They might have you can ask us questions that we'll answer on the podcast, but there's not oh, you don't get this episode of the podcast.
That must exist.
Not that I'm aware of, but maybe someone does that.
We got to look into this because clearly, based on our view counts of 4 and 3 views per episode for the last couple of weeks, people are dying to hear what we have to say about current and past anime series.
Well, of course. We'd get quadruple the views if we were still doing Shield Hero.
Probably so.
But we'd have to say nice things about it.
No, you don't have to say nice things about it necessarily. You just have to have a catchy thumbnail and, a title that is clearly, egging on people who might potentially click on it. Some might use the term clickbait.
Was this episode of Shield Hero the best or the worst
thing that's happened this millennium?
And don't forget that you need a red circle and an arrow pointing to it. 2 emojis. And the thumbnail needs to be cleavage somehow.
I love when people use emojis in YouTube thumbnails because it tells me how to feel.
See, we use emojis to replace words. So in this picture, we're going to put another picture. I'm confused.
What I want to know is what's going to replace emojis?
Hieroglyphics.
Oh, I see. We'll come full circle.
Full circle.
Or should I say full triangle? Because of the pyramids and shit. So what show is first?
I think we do Mob first this week.
Sounds good to me. So let me pull up your notes like that.
Cool.
And let me pull mine up over here.
Awesome.
So this was an action-packed episode.
Yes, very much so. I had to put my soup down because there was so much action.
Is that a reference to something?
No, that means I was actually eating soup while I was watching the show.
I'm just surprised to hear you say something that isn't a reference to something else. So you're eating soup?
Yeah, I was eating.
What kind?
I had some chicken tortilla soup. Chicken tortilla soup.
What kind of soup did you have?
Hard-hitting journalism.
Well, I am a journalist.
Blogging. 4 million blog posts made every day.
Yeah, from Dad's thing the other day.
Yep.
Anyways, this was an action-packed episode of Mob Psycho. So, so much so that you had to put down your soup to pay attention to what was happening on the screen.
Yeah.
It's true. Anime is actually really good for eating while you're watching because there are so many stills and panning shots. You can just listen and glance at the subtitles and, while you're eating your food.
Things are just flying around. I'm like, all right, I gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
Cool things are happening.
Yeah, this was... I'm tempted to say that this episode was more visually creative and ambitious than episode 5.
The Mogami fight?
Yeah. I honestly think there was more to this episode. I think some of the extended shots where the camera was flying all over the place were wilder. In a lot of the scenes in that Mogami fight, when it gets to the part that's like the apocalypse, the camera will often be zoomed way out
to show scale.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this one, it followed most of the characters pretty closely as they, flew around and propelled themselves psychically from one building to another and literally teleported all over the place.
And I think that's just I don't think that that episode 5, looked worse by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was directed differently because rather than it taking place in a physical space and using close up and tight shots to show the characters, whereas in the Mogami fight, all there was Mob and a bunch of ghoulish faces. That was about it.
Right.
Whereas this, we've got, multiple characters, and it's grounded in our world, in air quotes, of course. But, we see like people are bouncing off buildings, or there's plants growing out of things. It's not like giant cataclysm world ending, which is supposed to signify like, a mind breaking, essentially. It's just, they're two different, types of direction. One is to show the close, like person versus person physical combat, where the other is showing like
person versus environment.
The drastic scale of like a mental battle that two major psychics would go on.
Well, now that you're phrasing it this way, I kind of feel as though the normal thing to do would be to take the opposite approach in each case. For example, in mental warfare, wouldn't you be focusing more tightly on each character's facial tics and reactions and just how they're...
Well, it's not like two psychics staring each other down trying to overcome each other's wills. One is invaded the other's mind.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps not, but still, if it is more of a mental battle, you would focus more tightly on the characters. Whereas when you've got something set in the physical world, you would be able to place the camera wherever you liked because you're in a physical space. So you could be zoomed out. You could show more of the environment as the characters are fighting.
I see what you're saying, but I disagree because I think they were trying to show the scale of the powers that both Mob and Mogami had.
In episode 5, you mean?
In episode 5, yes. Although we did see our friend Mogami again.
Yeah, he's not my friend.
Well, our character that we know of.
Indeed.
I couldn't think of a better way to describe it.
That fellow Mogami. Mogami-kun.
Anti-plant man.
Yeah, it was the claw guy. We have a bunch of ex-claw members who are running around now in these episodes.
The Scars.
Yeah, the Scars. And one of the Scars, the guy who was the spirit user with, the belt and all the capsules with the evil spirits in them. I'm not totally sure what his deal is. It really feels as though he was included in the Mogami episodes as a way to allow Mob to
reintroduce him later.
No, yes, I suppose. But both of his appearances have seemed like ways to facilitate Mob encountering Mogami. The first time he does it, he pushes Mob through the mental barrier so that he can contact him. And then the second time, he literally just shows up in this episode just so that somebody can smash his capsule and release Mogami. Like, he just exists at this point as Mogami's Pokemon trainer. He, who's got him in a Pokeball. That's what he exists to do, is have the Pokeball with Mogami in it. It gets, smashed or...
Right. I see what you're saying, but I don't...
He's not leaving much of an impression on me. I don't know if he's supposed to, but if he's not, then,
I don't think he's supposed to. No,
well, then that's pretty.
I think he's just
a lame use of his character.
I think he's just a device, just like in you play like Skyrim or any Bethesda game. A random NPC will run up to you and be like, "I have a letter for you," and just starts a quest and runs away and is never seen again.
That reminds me of the postman from Majora's Mask in Zelda. You played Twilight Princess, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the postman with the short shorts? Yeah.
He's always like jogging in place.
It's the same guy from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've played either of those games.
It's just a device to set up another conflict or, another situation.
Yeah, but it kind of sucks that so many of the other Scars are like getting in on this epic battle against the teleporter, who's the main villain or enemy in this episode.
But this Claw didn't like gang up with them with, beforehand and like have a plan laid out. He's just like, I've showed up to whatever, maybe like prove how strong he is. Then he just gets destroyed.
That's
instantly.
what I'm saying. Wait, who are you talking about? The capsule guy.
Yes, I don't remember his name.
It's lame that his character has been reduced to this. Like, he's just the Mogami facilitating character.
Right, but in the first season, he was just the feed Dimple spirits person.
Yeah, I suppose that's true, but it was more of like an appropriate gag, I think, in the first season, because he just shows up for like one scene. Now he's being brought back. He's a recurring character that only recurs when they need him to bring out the actual recurring character. So it's sad times for that guy.
Yeah.
Imagine this being like a live action series, and that's the only like.
Speaking of live action series, remember last week how I said that there were more terrible Netflix anime live action adaptations?
We're talking about Mob Psycho.
There's a Mob Psycho 101
live action adaptation.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
I have not seen it. I can assume it's terrible.
Yeah,
but I was trying to remember it last week, and I just scrolled through on my I can't find something to do while I'm asleep flicks, and
nobody can find anything to do while they're asleep. You're unconscious.
You can dream,
I guess,
and you can breathe.
All right, so about the fight against the teleporter.
It was cool.
He's like pretty much invincible, sort of. Even when what's the guy's name? Damn, Teru, right?
Yeah.
Even when Teru begins to predict where he'll show up,
he just like enters Super Saiyan 2.
Yeah.
And just BTFOs all of them instantly.
Yeah. But even before that, when he does the mind's eye power, and
that's when he BTFOs them all instantly.
Even before we get to that point, and Teru is like predicting his movement, and he does that little spin kick thing. The teleporter guy just blocks it.
Right, but then all the other people start getting hits on him.
Yeah, but then he just gets up from that and is like, all right, well, now he will try. And he yeah, like you said, he
was
blows
that
them all the fuck out.
Smash Doc reference?
It sure was,
man.
Oh,
wow, you're pulling out more references than I am this week.
Well, you know, I felt compelled to catch up.
Of course.
So the reason why the fight ends the way it does, which is with the arrival of Reagan and Mob, is the reason Reagan's able to get the jump on him like that is because he concentrates all his powers on like identifying psychics in the area and taking them all out at once. It felt like with the rocks, because a lot of attention was paid to the rocks in that scene that were floating, and then a bunch of blows were struck to the heads of all the psychics in the area. So I feel like, I mean, he's a teleporter, so maybe he teleported around and just
hit all of them, thrusts, yeah.
But then, as a result, he wasn't able to sense Reagan, who comes in with his
self-defense, multiple punches.
Exactly. So this is
Reagan screams self-defense in front of his moves, just in case.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a redux of what happened in the first season when he barges into Claw's HQ and is like, you know, acting like he's hot shit, and everybody assumes that he is.
Is he so powerful that he can subdue his own aura?
Yeah, and wouldn't you think? I mean, Mob Psycho's quote unquote power system is not very well developed, and honestly, that's a blessing, because when your series gets too bogged down in that, then it just ends up being a giant.
He's
meme.
opened the 6th chakra gate.
Yeah, like you don't want that to be your thing, unless you want to make tons of money, in which case
it's over 9,000.
You should definitely create a narratively weak, overly convoluted power system for your battle shonen. But the before I got lost in this tangent, the drawback of Mob not like thoroughly exploring the ins and outs of psychic power means that you're faced with situations like this, where you think to yourself, wouldn't it be natural for people to like subdue their, you know, like how hunters move quietly? Wouldn't psychics be able to employ some sort of mental trickery in order to do the same thing? But apparently not, and Reagan is like potentially the only exception in this guy's mind.
Unless Reagan is actually just a god, we don't know it yet.
Yeah, it could be that he's pulling a super long con on everyone, including himself, and he's actually the real world's greatest psychic.
Not what's his face's dad, because I can't remember that dude's name.
Who?
The kid?
Show,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, his dad uses like a whole bunch of fire and ice powers on him and stuff, and then Sho can turn invisible, apparently, by
refracting light.
Yeah, in a specific way that renders him invisible to the eye.
Yep.
So they're just pulling out a whole bunch of crazy powers on each other, but since they're both ridiculously strong,
and their dad's just like, let me show you my real power.
Yeah. And then, Mob goes off and he does his thing.
Yep. Mob gets attacked by Plant Dude. Plant Dude gets blown up by Mogami. Mob shows up and says, nope, you'll only slow me down. After Mogami says, you're going to have to be hard on some people.
Bro.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling... I think we talked a lot last week about, like, whether or not Mob's combat scenes at this point are really thematically driven. And I didn't really get that from this one. I mean, Mogami...
He's just running away in this one.
Well, Mogami, getting released from his capsule and saying, yeah, you have to learn to be harder on people, more strict, more harsh.
Like there are some people who won't change.
He just says that and then pieces out for whatever reason. And so
they have no idea actually, like if he's gone, or if he's just like, disappeared.
Well, in either case, he just disappears from the scene.
He's gone.
That. And that's really all there is to Mob's. I mean, the rest of what Mob says and does and goes through in the rest of this episode is, he's like, I have to do it alone. And I assume now that we're in shonen territory that, they'll all probably follow after him, or a few of them will. And then one of them will get injured in the fight with the main guy, and then he'll go into question mark mode as a result.
Or 100.
Yeah.
Because there's apparently a difference.
Yeah, maybe he'll learn to control question mark mode. Oh my God. The evolution of the power system in Mob. That's a YouTube video in the making. The power system of Mob Psycho 100.
The people start
with 2 emojis.
People
on the
start measuring the pixels wide of the psychic auras.
Right.
And
coming up with some sort of color theory to explain
what each color means.
Yeah. I'm telling you, free views, man.
Free money. It's at least 3 million views.
The series isn't that popular.
I don't know. It's got a live action adaptation. So does Bleach.
Sure does.
And that show about gambling.
Does that say 17 minutes?
It does.
All right. Should we move on?
Unless there's anything else you want to
add. Nope.
Yeah, I don't really think so. I mean, you saw the bit at the end with the umbrella dude.
Yeah, the umbrella guy has to be dispatched before he can move on to Sho's dad.
So next episode, fight Umbrella Man. And then the first half of the fight with Sho's dad. Then the last episode will be half the fight. Half the episode will be the fight with Sho's dad. And then the other half will be like the
resolution.
The resolution or whatever.
Yeah, probably. Probably so. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not. Speaking of things that don't have anything wrong with them.
This episode of Kaguya-sama.
That's actually where I was going with that.
I thought this episode was baller as fuck.
Really,
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I liked it too. I thought it was great.
It was a complete 180 for me from last week's episode, which I didn't really take a shine to.
Right.
But everything about this one, even though it does pick up from where we left off, with the whole Kaguya's sick in bed, and then Shirogane gets into bed with her, and
post on the forums. What happened, guys?
Sexy shit, maybe. They pick up from that, and the two characters are kind of at loggerheads still. I don't know if I use that phrase properly. That's definitely a real word.
I don't know what that means.
It means they're butting heads. They're at odds.
Why don't you just say that?
Sometimes it's fun to use different words that not everybody knows because it makes you sound like a real genius.
It makes you sound like a real college graduate.
In this series. So what I'm trying to say is that even though that whole plot I didn't really care for, even though this one, picks up that torch and carries it forward, I still really enjoyed it because I thought there were a lot of fun gags, a lot of attention to detail as well. For example, let me turn my head and look at my notes. For an example,
He's looking for an example, I swear,
well,
folks.
The thing that's coming to mind right now, and this doesn't really have anything to do with the whole sick in bed plot.
Right. Was it the third episode?
But I just remember Fujiwara having a notebook in the third episode when they're trying to figure out where they're going to go on, like, for summer vacation. And she's got a notebook because apparently her family is going on a bunch of trips. And there were just a bunch of little miniature bookmarks sticking out of her notebook, and they're all like, like cute little bears and stars and things.
Right.
So that, that's appropriate for her character. That's what I'm thinking of at the moment. That's an example of some detail. That
is an attention to a detail.
There you go.
That only the sharpest of anime minds will pick up on.
But there was also stuff like just the way the characters' emotions and personalities were represented in the first segment, which is the one with the fight over the cake.
Over the cake, yeah.
Kaguya and Shirogane, they get those little rage marks on their foreheads.
And then they explode.
Yeah, like they pop like balloons, which kind of, if we're getting real cinematic here, that foreshadows the dissipation of the tension that they're feeling when it pops.
I mean, I thought of it as just like, oh, it's the breaking point.
Yeah, I suppose. But what happens after a balloon pops? All the air that was trapped inside is released.
Yes, that is what happens when a balloon pops.
So it's like foreshadowing the fact that the tension is going to be deflated or diffused.
I mean, we knew it was going to as well, because it was just like,
but they
break. Oh, it's a really cute moment. Hang on, I need to scratch my nose.
Yeah, they both have particular memories of like sad moments.
Just like, I've never had strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. I don't get to see my family that much. My life is depressing. Hang on, I gotta scratch my forehead.
Also from that episode, the moment where Ishigami leaves because he recognizes that like the tension in the room kind of has to be de-escalated, and he needs Fujiwara for that, so he runs to get her, and then like her face with sunflowers around it appears like a logo on screen and like zooms in. Yeah, exactly, like it's some 1960s American cartoon. I thought that was pretty fun.
I've eaten the cake. I solved everything, guys.
Yeah, that is how it ends up playing out. She eats the cake instead of them. Serves them right for being so silly and petty.
The end card of that segment was the headmaster eating the cake.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
I forgot about that.
I was like, why did he only give us 2 pieces? There are 4 people in the student council.
Well, he's the boss. That must come with certain perks and privileges.
He had 2 pieces. I think it was meant like he was going to give it to all of them, but he wanted it for himself. So he kept it.
I didn't remember that he had 2 pieces. That's another fun little detail.
Yeah.
So that's the first segment.
Yeah, the second segment was...
Second one was the romantic advice.
Yeah.
But instead of being advice givers, as they have in the past, Kaguya and Shirogane.
Advice seekers.
Yes. So that's, now we've kind of touched on all 3, and I mean, we can get a little bit more into detail about them, but which one was your favorite? Was it the cake battle, the romantic advice?
Romantic advice was my favorite.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, which one did you like more? Did you like Kaguya talking to Kashiwagi or Shirogane talking to Ishigawa?
Which one do you think?
I have a guess.
Ishigawa.
Yeah.
Of course.
The one with the red pills just being dropped everywhere.
Yes. It's not what women want.
The best thing about their conversation was the fact that Ishigawa, as he was advising, Shirogane and indirectly insulting Kaguya, he was also revealing his own his like lack of romantic experience and frustration with women as he was talking. Like every word he said, he was unconsciously just...
He's like, man, he sure is loud.
Yeah, loud and stupid. But I did think his character was pretty funny in this episode. He just seemed so...
It's like, I don't have any experience with women, but I have read a lot of romantic comedy mangas before.
His voice actor's delivery in this episode was much more like high strung and over the top than it has been in the past. He was so like outraged by everything that the class president was describing about Kaguya.
How dare she?
Yeah, there was a slight like women should know their place vibe coming from his old
coming
spiel.
from an epic gamer.
Yeah, such as himself. But I thought it was pretty funny, because he. It's not as though the entire show was constructed to validate his point of view. Like you take something like Rising of the Shield Hero, where the whole show dumps a literal like metric tons of poop on top of the head of the main character so that he can, righteously put everybody else in their place.
So he can righteously be a dickbag.
The joke is on Ishigami in this segment. And it was pretty funny as a result.
And Kaguya gets... I think they both get... Well, no. Shirogane gets terrible advice, of course.
Yeah, so does Kaguya. I mean, Kashiwagi doesn't really do anything to help her. She just says over and over, like, so desu ne. He should take responsibility, desu ne. The reason I would say that her advice wasn't particularly effective was because Kaguya like secretly wanted him to make some sort of move on her when she was in her semi-conscious or unconscious state, which is kind of weird.
I mean, I won't pretend to be a girl, but I can understand.
But let me go ahead and pretend to be a girl.
Real quick. Let me be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
What?
No,
you won't pretend to be a girl, but all women want to be, lightly assaulted.
No, I mean, I understand, like, if it's, everybody has the, I want to be seen as, like, an attractive person, especially by the person that you like, and you do things like, oh, he didn't do anything, so that obviously he doesn't find me attractive or he doesn't like me, and it's what Kaguya wants.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I realize that they're kind of fantasizing it a little bit for whoever's like reading or watching it, being like, "Oh, that's what girls want." But Kaguya giving terrible advice to any of the men watching the show
and women.
Yeah, I guess just. But I mean, I guess it makes sense-ish.
I guess. I thought it was kind of silly, or kind of dumb.
But I like the way it resolved, though.
How did it resolve?
At the end in the hallway when...
oh, yeah.
When Kaguya and Shirogane pass each other.
Yeah, he admits to her,
like,
I touched your lips. And then she touches his lips. Says,
we're even.
Now we're even.
And then scampers off like a scared schoolgirl because, well, she quite literally was at the moment.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it was. That was nice. I mean, the thing I appreciate most about it is the fact that they are even now, so we can put this entire thing past us. With Kaguya becoming a literal retard when she's sick, and then
becoming a literal retard when making vacation plans.
Well, that's a separate thing. That's the third.
It's the third act.
But then just like her being totally out of her head and acting like a slightly sexualized infant when she's ill, and then being like, well, why didn't he do anything to me when I was a slightly sexualized infant? Why didn't he?
I think you kind of hit diminishing returns with this sexy baby act. What's a diminishing?
There you go. You're back on track with your references to other media.
But that was somewhat relevant, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how Shirogane didn't take any of Ishigami's advice.
Well, why would you?
I don't know. What if you actually like took him seriously for a second and just be like, well, he's got the right idea.
I mean, Shirogane is supposed to be like highly intelligent, so I doubt he would think that way.
Yeah, he did some pretty stupid things.
I guess so. So the third part
leads us into the final act.
I mean, I probably have the least to say about that one because it kind of stands alone.
Yeah. And it doesn't connect to the previous episode.
Fujiwara is going to the tomato festival in Spain, so she can't go to the... I mean, I guess the thing...
And she's going to Hawaii.
Right, but the thing that's most interesting about the third segment is the reveal that they're going to a summer festival, which I assume will show up in the next episode, because it's summer break now, right?
Yeah.
They had those exams like a few episodes back. Remember, there were like 2 chapters.
That was the 5th exam, yeah.
Yep.
Which is the last one.
Right. They take 5, yeah. So, I mean, they're going to go to my favorite shot of the entire episode was the one where they're talking about the summer festival, and Fujiwara is, talking about the sorts of things that they might do there, and she mentions fireworks, and Kaguya goes, "A.N.I.M.E," and then there's that shot where she's like, Fujiwara is in the foreground and Kaguya is in the background, and then she like barges up next to her. And then she gets fireworks in her eyes. And then she takes over the entire frame, just like shoving Fujiwara out of the way.
Yeah. Romantic fireworks.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny. And that's all I have to say about that.
But she contributes absolutely nothing to the conversation.
Who?
Kaguya.
What do you mean? She makes the biggest contribution of all. She does a cute little like barge up to the camera.
Right, but that's an aside. That's not actually happening.
Well, none of this is actually happening. It's a cartoon. What do you mean?
I mean, she doesn't do that in the room, just like push Fujiwara out of the way. Or anything.
No, she doesn't. But you have to imagine. I mean, you're talking about the fact that there was like a stylized background behind them. It didn't. That scene didn't.
It's something going on in her head.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. Maybe. I guess.
I think so, because she kind of just stands there the entire time and it's just like,
Oh, right. She's doing that whole thing where she's like zen because she knows that Fujiwara will ruin any plan that she tries to make.
Right.
I guess we didn't touch on that.
And then at the end, Ishigami being like, "You're not a very good friend if you're trying to control us," saying we can't go somewhere even though you already made plans. And Fujiwara runs off crying, and he's like, "Oh no, I've done it again." And Kaguya and Shirogane like, "No, you were in the right this time. It's all good."
What a shining moment that must have been for him.
Like, I had an interaction with a girl that wasn't my fault that she ran away crying.
One step at a time, Ishigami.
Hallelujah.
You'll get there one day. We'll probably get paired up with like Hayasaka, the maid, or somebody. I don't know.
Who knows?
I mean, it's a rom-com, and there are like 140 chapters or something.
I would assume every episode is a chapter.
Every episode's 3 chapters.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, because of the 3 chapters.
Oh, that's what I meant. Every segment is a chapter.
Oh, yeah. So that means that I assume they've skipped some. And this is the 10th episode times 3 is 30. So let's say they've done 40 or 50.
So they have got lots of material.
Probably like 40. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. So let's move on. Unless you have anything else to say about a fluffy rom-com that is ultimately of no lasting substance.
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's go. Neverland. I honestly don't care about this show anymore.
I am completely with you.
Let's just drop it.
Like, it was the only, I think I wrote down 2 things without my like 1 sentence summary of the episode. I wrote down, it's 2045 and is Mama happy?
Yeah, I hated that scene, dude. I hated everything about this episode. It's my least favorite so far.
It's like the forced melodrama you see on like daytime soap operas, like a Telemundo or something like that.
I don't know if it was that bad.
I have no interest in any of the characters.
Yeah, for me, there's a real problem with an episode that's dedicated mostly to trying to get us to feel, sad for Norman's impending death, feel bad about Ray and Emma's fake depression.
Death.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's still alive. But he like his not dying is not a shock because he's a main character, and it's the show's job to make you worry for him and feel as though he's a believable person in a believable scenario so that you think that he might die. Somewhere in the back of your head, you're worried about that. But for me, I'm so disconnected from what's going on that I don't feel that at all. So it's obvious he's not going to die. He's the main character. It's obvious that Ray and Emma are not actually depressed in the wake of his departure because they need to escape, because this is a prison break series. That's literally the name of the game right now.
Right.
And all the shit. I have to admit that the cup telephone scene, that's kind of cute. Like when they're kids and they're talking to each other on it.
But ultimately,
but then when we flash back to the
serve anything.
Well, the point it serves is to drive home the two characters, Emma and Norman are, really good friends, and they have this bond stretching back to their childhood, and now they're going to be broken apart, and so that's really going to break her up, but she's got to escape. So
insert determined face at end of show.
Right, yeah. Those determined faces, they'll get you. They'll pull you back in for another episode.
It just gets you every time, man.
So I've been thinking a little bit. I don't like to dedicate too much mental energy to this series. Kind of just let it wash over me and stuff. But I've been thinking about why I don't really care about the characters very much. And I think that one of my main issues is that in episode 2, when Ray and Norman kind of butt heads about which plan they're going to follow in terms of saving the other kids.
Right, versus saving just themselves.
Yeah. That whole conflict is broken down, or how should I put this? That conflict just kind of dissipates or evaporates really quickly when Norman says, "Oh, I love Emma. So I'm on her side and we're going to follow her plan. It's 2 against 1. And Ray's like, fine.
Didn't in the later episode Ray also be like, all right, you got to commit. We got to screw everyone else over.
Yeah. He did. Yeah. But just in that moment in episode 2, when, Emma says, save everyone. Ray says, save yourself. And Norman says, oh, I love Emma, and we're not even putting a pin in this for later. It's just,
just over and done.
It's over with. Yeah, there was a lot of potential there for their characters to really go through some conflict, during which time we could learn a lot more about the way they think, their general outlook on life and their philosophy. And we could have, in the process, we could have learned why they've turned out the way they have via, some short flashbacks. I think that would have been a better way of going about things rather than just, everything focusing so heavily and so clearly on the demons and on the escape. That potential conflict between the two of them kind of gets shunted to the side so that we can learn one more shocking fact about the house that they're living in, or Sister Crone, or Mama Isabel in every episode.
Right.
And that sense of progression that comes as a result of all those little reveals, to me, is less valuable than caring about the characters who are in this desperate situation.
I think
so. That's what I came to in terms of thinking about why don't I give a shit?
While you were talking about that, I actually thought about it myself, and I think, for me at least, it's because there is no visible threat.
Sure there is. We see Crone get stabbed to death with those flowers, and we see Connie's terribly mutilated body in episode 1.
So that's 2 times out of 10 episodes?
Yeah, but we're following the characters who are living and who are trying to stay alive. So we won't be seeing constant, death and carnage.
In a horror or suspense, as this is more going towards, because this is not, a horror show.
Yeah.
You have to actually build a suspense and build tension with, the antagonist. The mom isn't the antagonist. Not really. The antagonist is the outside world and their ultimate fate. And they're kind of stuck in this house.
Yeah.
But I don't feel a feeling of suspense, or like, I don't feel that there's like an impending threat to these kids. And so as a result of that, I just don't care.
Well, there is a threat, right? They're going to get shipped out and die, or so they think. And Norman gets shipped out in this episode.
Shipped out, air quotes.
Yeah, he doesn't die. Mama has some sort of plan for him, I guess. And she has a plan for Emma too. Doesn't she approach Emma in this episode and say, if you want to be the new mom, I'll put your name forward.
And of course Emma's just like, no, I don't want to do that.
I want to save everyone and
I want to
live.
I want to live.
I mean I can understand what you mean, because the place that they're trapped is not terribly threatening on its own. You know, it's supposed to be like idyllic. The house that they live in is perfect for their development, that their brains can be only the finest quality for Tifari, or whatever the name of that holiday is, that the religious ceremony.
Death Day.
But I mean, the show has done its best to make Mama out to be, you know, like threatening and creepy and stuff.
They only really started showing her to be threatening or creepy after Crone was gone, though.
Oh, that's not true. In episode 2, there's that scene where she's like leering down at Emma, and there's a question in Norman's mind, like, is Emma going to break? She going to spill the beans that she knows about the demons?
Oh, yeah,
now?
that's right.
And she ends up putting on a happy face and smiling instead. Like they really pushed Isabel as, you know, a creepy, threatening woman.
But
in that
I didn't get any of that. I was just like, oh, that's a weird face.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the setting is just the issue. If the house were a little less welcoming.
Because suspense is difficult to pull off. For suspense to work, there has to be an almost imminent threat of death. You know, some of the most suspenseful, you know, just to go to movies, I think like the original Alien. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But you only see the alien, like, you see pieces of it, you know, 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. But the suspense of it showing up, and killing the protagonist, which you have the demons that are going to kill the protagonists.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, this is a Prison Break series. You know, in a Prison Break series, what they're trying to escape is just, you know, for some characters, it might be, let's say, a spot on death row. In fact, that's exactly what this is. They're prisoners in this house, and they're on death row, and they're trying to get out. So it needs to be more of a thriller.
Yeah, I'd be curious to read the source material and see how differently, if it does it differently at all, or if it's exactly like this.
This is supposed to be a pretty faithful adaptation, I think. So all that you would miss out on from the anime is just, you know, like color and clunky CG.
And lots of stares.
Well, you get those in the manga too. All you have to do is stare at the image and
That's not too bad.
Pretend that it's staring back. I think there's just an issue with the characters. That's my take on it.
Yeah, there's
all this stuff that we're learning about them now, these flashbacks or whatever, to Emma and Norman's past. That should have come earlier. Ray being a double agent, you know, you can still save that reveal for an appropriate time, but make him a little bit less friendly with the other two, and make him a little edgier and a little darker, so there's more to his character, like make him his own person a little bit more, make him stand out a little bit more.
And we really don't need Dawn or Gilda.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they don't do anything. They don't they don't serve a purpose to the story. Like their whole excursion into Mom's room a couple episodes ago, they found nothing. Reported nothing.
Phil. Didn't they find Phil? That wasn't that kid waiting for them there? With the blue eyes.
They found that's how they learned the truth. They found the remnants of one of the old kids' toys or whatever. But it didn't move anything anywhere. All it did was set up Norman. Those two, so far as I can tell, the only thing that they advanced with the main three was Norman being able to figure out that Ray was the traitor. That's all they've really done, besides Gilda making a new rope.
Well, yeah, they're not great characters, but I don't have an issue with their existence.
I don't either. I feel like if you're going to add characters to something, they should add something.
Maybe they will in the future. I don't know.
Especially because
But I'm getting kind of sleepy and bored just talking about this. I don't really care to watch the rest.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm going to.
That's fine.
We can figure out something else to talk about for 15 minutes each week.
That shouldn't be too hard.
Just throw a third episode of Planet Ace in there or something else. I don't know.
All right. Speaking of Planet Ace.
Hi, Dan.
Let's talk about space debris.
Mama, are you happy?
And how it affects you.
Gulp. Of course I am, Norman.
Norman.
That was some grade A subtlety on the show's part. Anime gasps are so funny. Let's watch YouTube compilations.
I think there was somebody who made a metal song that was literally nothing but those. Or nothing but like and noises. And just made like a metal breakdown song over top of it. It was
fantastic.
I don't know why.
All right, yeah.
Anyways, talking about space debris,
and how it affects me,
death, and
yeah, definitely death.
I was gonna say taxes, but it wasn't actually taxes. It was in life insurance.
Episode 4 was like politics.
But I mean, it didn't really have to do that much with government, though. It had more to do with just nepotism and things like nepotism and
relations between companies.
Yeah, that's not politics.
Look up the definition of the word politics sometimes.
Sometimes I will.
It doesn't have the election and party system focus that you might think it does living where we live. That's not what politics means.
Okay. Either way, let's talk about episode 3
anyways
first.
Let's just jump into these. Let's dive into the sky of these 2 episodes.
Yes, that is the title of the band that did the song, unless that's the name of the song itself.
I just know at the end it goes, Tohoku, Tohoku, dive in the sky. Whoa.
That's the name of the song.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's the giant English words during the opening. Dive in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. It's a fun little tune. The OP is really good. I think I probably said that last week.
Yeah, I think you did.
So the first of these 2 episodes, episode 3, was the one about death, essentially.
Last will and testament, life insurance, and the fact that you're no longer allowed to have space coffins.
Right. In 2028, they banned space burials, and that guy just barely got in before that in 2024. That guy being the astronaut whose corpse
daughter
they find.
Yeah, and whose daughter they talk to.
Yes. Exactly. And the Tanabe is still the
voice of the author.
The idealistic rookie character who
is the voice of the author for sure.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think so.
Because Hachimaki's voice is given just as much prominence as Tanabe's.
Yeah, but that's just to stop it from being like one person giving a speech with no rebuttal.
I don't know, dude. I don't know about that.
I don't have a problem with that. It's a good back and forth, but I think that if the author is going to write a scene like that with someone who's speaking like that, that's obviously the writer expressing his view.
Yeah,
I think so.
I'm honestly not sure about that because like this episode in particular was very heavy on just like feelings of angst and what's the word I'm looking for? Unsurety. What is that word?
Regret?
Regret, I suppose. But like when you're not sure about something, what's the best word to describe that? I don't know why I'm blanking right now.
I'm in unsurety. We're gonna go with unsurety for now.
Yeah. All those sorts of emotions that arise when you contemplate your own death, as the characters are forced to in this episode, with the last will and testaments being mandated by the company, and the life insurance people, coming around since it's the perfect time given what the company's asking its employees to do.
And none of the characters would have given it a second thought if it weren't for Tanabe, not having done the process and, questioning it rather than doing just whatever you're.
Well, everybody else had to rewrite them too, right?
They just turn in the same thing they do every year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And Hachi's is like
a drawing of a spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing that he seems to care about is this childhood dream that he hasn't been able to let go of.
To own a spaceship.
So it makes sense that he would incorporate that somehow. I mean, if not, just sketch a picture of it and submit it as his will. But it makes sense that he would, have that on his mind when he's being forced to, on some level, think about his death and also the value of his life that has led up to a potential death. That's what he really wants is freedom, I think. And we learn in this episode just very briefly that he doesn't have the best relationship with his father. I think that's alluded to.
Yeah. Well, it's not alluded to. He says it.
Well, he doesn't, right? Tanabe kind of prods him.
Right. He says, don't talk about my dad. We don't exactly have the best relationship, my old man and I.
Well, he says something more vague, and she thinks that he might be dead. But he says, no, he's still alive and kicking.
Yeah, and then he says that he doesn't have a good relationship with his dad. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember him using words that were that clear. I think she kind of infers it from his reluctance to talk about it.
Maybe.
But I think the reason that he's so fixated on like this dream of having a spaceship is so that he can have total freedom. Freedom from his past, freedom from his family. If he's working this, he's gone to the ends of the earth. I suppose you could say literally.
Literally the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
To escape whatever he's running from.
Yeah, and he's continuing to work this, this terrible job that he hates, most likely. Just so that he can have some measure of freedom, get away from whatever it is he's fleeing. So but a lot of that I feel like is left to the viewer to pick up on. It's not as though we're just like inside his head the entire time, getting like little snippets, little flashbacks, voiceover.
Because the show is definitely shown from Tanabe's point of view.
Not always. I mean, think about episode 2. That was the one where it was mostly Hachimaki.
Yeah, but I think for the most part, it's shown from her point of view. Or at least that's
I don't
how it
agree.
Seems.
I don't agree. Episode 1 definitely was, because that was the one where she's introduced. She's the new character, like the new kid on the block. So we're introduced to everybody else through her. And in episode 3, she gets. I don't think it's from her point of view. I just think that she is perhaps a louder voice than most others, because she's the one who literally uses a louder voice than everybody else at the end.
Yeah, she just starts yelling and holding up a dead guy.
Yeah, when she like exits the toy box and goes to the exterior and puts on her spacesuit and like is holding the coffin.
I'm holding this dead man ransom. Listen to me as I stand on my proverbial soapbox.
I thought it was nice that the thing that changes the daughter's mind
is they're doing the picture of the daughter and what I assume was his wife floating in the pod.
Yeah, and an even nicer detail, I suppose, about that scene is that it's Yuri, the blonde guy who hardly ever says anything.
He puts his little
with his camera
and zooms in
on it. Yeah, he's the one. He's the quietest, the most reserved, probably the most emotionally mature, if I had to guess. Who seems to see everything that's going on and understand everyone.
Tanabe's right in a way. I think that's like his only line on the ship.
Yeah.
He is the voice of the author.
Perhaps.
Quiet, reserved, still speaks the truth.
A total gentleman and a scholar. But yeah, he does zoom in on that image, which is what prompts her to change her mind. But that happens as Tanabe is going through all of her stuff about there's discussion about the miracle of him returning to Earth's orbit, even though he was fired into deep space.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting discussion that they have where she says what made that miracle possible. It was love. It was his love for his family.
His wish. Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps, I mean, I think Planetes taps into something there, which is that most people do have a belief in some sort of supernaturality. It doesn't necessarily have to be God, Buddha. It doesn't have to be some sort of set of dogmatic principles.
Arceus.
But it can just be like a belief in love as a shaping or driving force in the universe.
Right, or karma or whatever you want to call it.
Right, yeah. And so Tanabe, though she does seem to be a rationalist, she's an idealist, but she does go about it rationally, I think. She wants the best for humanity in this new future that they've carved out for themselves. But even though she does seem to approach life on a rational level, she is not above, making that sort of argument that it's love who brought him back here, and we should respect that love that she believes that he has for his family.
Right. Because that's what she wants to leave as her last will and testament is love rather than money.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that as well. And that's kind of where the other function of the insurance agents who like plague all the other characters come into this episode. So it's very nice how both that seems to like integrate with everything else, as like it's a source of humor. It allows the show to make further commentary about the characters' views of their own lives and potential deaths. So pretty well scripted, I think.
Yeah, I liked both these episodes actually. I don't think I liked the fourth one as much.
So what's the deal with the fourth one?
It's one of those like you just want to punch that guy in the face. Just one of those people.
Yeah, just make a really hateable character, and then our heroes are the good guys.
Right.
It is more gray than that.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is. Because specifically of the characters of Claire and Dolph. Claire being the woman from the photo that we talked about last week.
Right.
Remember the woman?
Yeah.
In the photo who we speculated about? Already we have the answer. That's Claire. And she and Hachimaki were an item at one point.
When they first got on the station like 3 years ago.
Right. But she quickly like started rising through the ranks, and he's just a bum. So I guess that may have played into, it almost certainly played into their breakup.
Right.
But we don't
know anything. It's like that was your decision.
Yeah. It was she who broke up with him.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the show is wise not to give out too much information about their breakup because it's, Claire seems to be a relatively important character. She's kind of our link to what control section.
Something like called? That. Control, command, Starfleet bridge, whatever.
Yeah, she's our link to that part of the ship. So I have to imagine her character will continue to appear and be utilized. And whatever tension still exists between her and Hachimaki, I'm sure it will surface again. Excuse me. But because of her involvement, I think the show is a little less black and white. Like she's trying to manage the tensions between the two, the debris section and what's his face.
She's angling for a promotion.
Yeah.
So
she's trying, she's trying to mediate.
I think that makes it even more black and white.
Oh, I don't know, because think of the way the episode, her part in the episode ends. Dolph, her supervisor, says
just
to
like
her,
we ended at like a net zero. Do better next time.
Yeah, exactly. His attitude is really, I appreciated it. That he says to her like, just it's exactly like you said, do better next time. Like he doesn't harp on her about it. He's not totally forgiving in the spirit of like an episode where everyone just ends up laughing together at the end, which they do. But the way that her story resolves is just there's like a certain amount of ambiguity to his. Maybe ambiguity might not be the right word.
She says at one point during the episode that he's a man who only cares about results. He doesn't care about anything else. So she didn't get the result that he wanted, but he didn't lose anything in the process. So he's like, just do better next time.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting. The Dolph's character, and hers as well. But the Dolph is particularly interesting in the context of Planete's after 4 episodes, because the only other bosses that we've seen are like a couple of bumbling idiots. Yeah, exactly. Who are so concerned about like getting cream puffs before the store closes at noon
and sprinting to get cola.
Right, yeah. And the only thing that cola does is serve as a scene transition, I think, because he drops it on the ground and then it spreads everywhere, and then we cut to some other scene.
Yeah, it like zooms in on it and then it just like crossfades.
Yeah.
And then we have Clifford.
Who's Clifford? The guy?
Yeah, the
kid. Colin Clifford.
Colin Clifford.
Yeah.
Clifford.
So that's what I was talking about when I said politics. Like there's the relationship between these two companies. Technora is, I think,
the company they work for.
Who works for? Our main characters?
Yes.
Okay. And then he's the son of like one of the big bosses of INTO,
which is
Space NATO or Space UN.
Yeah, Space UN.
Yeah. And it was gradually revealed over the course of the episode what their mission was, like why he was there in the first place. Because I was a bit confused about that at the start. I thought maybe he was just along for some sort of PR thing or like a photo op or something like that. But what they were really doing was retrieving a bit of debris that he had left in space.
So that there wouldn't be like news about it.
Yeah.
Like,
and they allude to that when there's that little scene where they say, 5 people are going out when it's really 6. So that there's no record of film on the ship.
Right.
They drop that little detail in there only for it to be elaborated on later.
I was confused. I was like, 5? Wait, is she not going or something? No, she's going. And I kind of just like tossed out of the side and, just like some of the other people would have done, just being like, 5, that's the wrong number, but everyone's going, oh, well. You just forget about it. Like we did, but it turned out to be, important to later in the episode.
Right. And that's how it would have played out in real life too.
Yeah.
And I think Planetes has a certain dedication to to
exploring nepotism.
Well, to creating conversations that feel possible. Though there is some stiltedness to the way that Tanabe and Hachimaki's worldviews like directly clash with one another. It's also a totally plausible thing, like, dynamic that it would arise in real life.
Sure.
She's the rookie who wants to do her best at her job, and Hachimaki's just sick of everybody's bull crap.
Yep.
And he's definitely sick of everybody's bull crap in this episode because Colin is, such a jock. Yeah, just a dumb daddy's boy.
I think the word I wrote was douche canoe.
Yeah. Well, you should think of a more like space appropriate term.
Douche vessel.
That's even better. A douche vessel. Yeah, I'm gonna start using that. Yeah, he's just constantly shitting on the debris section and Hachimaki, and
I mean, at the end of the episode, he goes on like a 4-minute rant about like how he's so great, how he's like so great, and how they're trash and everything. I'm like, there is no way anyone is this cartoonish while being an inch from getting punched. Episodes.
Well, he says later, "What are you doing? I'm about to get this guy fired." He was like gunning for Hachimaki because I mean Hachimaki had been pushing back against that guy's assholery
the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. And Fee and Claire were not just totally shutting Hachi down. They were allowing him to like put his 2 cents in.
Because they agreed.
Well, yeah,
but they didn't want to say it.
Also because they probably didn't want their company or their crew to seem weak. They do want to like kowtow to this guy because he's the son of some head honcho somewhere. But
so they get better space debris and they can actually make money.
Right. Yeah, and that was the other interesting thing about the whole episode. It's important to note that the entire thing is preceded by that
like essentially
that conversation,
like a business meeting.
Yeah.
Or it's just like every section is making, it's like 15% quarter over quarter or year over year, whichever they said, except for one, which is in the red.
Right.
And in business, you want to be in the black.
It has a unique, the debris section has a unique evaluation system, I guess, because the debris they get is worth points. And then they're compensated based on
the number of points they get.
Yeah. So they
have to be allowed to go after
right. And
things.
The people who are going to allow them to do that are one of the main
Space NATO or Space
United Nations.
UN, yeah.
That's going to be one of their main groups, I guess, of people who are saying, go get this, go get that. So there is an economic and like political, an eco-political, if you will, concern hanging over the entire episode. So you kind of understand why Colin would be permitted for so long.
Right. Because they're just
why he would be tolerated. They're trying to get those points, man.
Yeah, they're trying to make money. And people will put up with assholes for money.
I did that for 12 hours today.
Yeah. That's what most people have to deal with.
Oh, God.
But in the end, it's Tanabe who punches him in the face.
Yeah. Yes, because the thing that she says that kind of struck me was like debris cleanup or debris pickup, whatever you call it, is the coolest job in the world. We keep space safe. Nobody else wants to do it, but we do it because it has to be done.
Right.
So she really seems to be a go-getter, and she really loves her job.
I think it's more of that she just wanted to, without explicitly stating it, just kind of come to the defense of her whole crew and all her friends, just being like, we have a cool job, we're important, what we do keeps people safe.
Yeah.
She's not just trying to like, being like, my job is important. She's talking more about about everyone, and because he's putting down everybody that's not him.
Yeah. I think it's true that she's coming to everybody's defense, and especially Hachimaki's. Because if you noticed in this episode, Tanabe was also interested in like what his past relationship was with Claire.
Right.
She was kind of trying to dig for some details very subtly.
And she has lunch with her friends, and they make a mention that
you're always talking about him.
I was talking about him.
Are
Does that
you
mean you love
into him?
I was like, what is it with you and making everything about a relationship?
Yeah.
Amanda.
How many girls have asked their friends that just in the last like 10 minutes somewhere on Earth? What is it with you and everything being a relationship?
Tens of thousands, probably.
I don't know about that. In the last 10 minutes?
There are billions of people. 10,000's not that many.
You underestimate women's power. They all pass the Bechdel test every single time.
I don't know what that is.
Or well, we can move
I know
right
what a Turing test is, though.
Is there anything else to... Oh, yeah, and Hachi calls her by her name instead of calling her Shinidi every time.
Shitty?
Shinidi. Yeah, I think that's how you say rookie.
Vini Vidi Vici.
Yeah, I think that's how you say rookie in Japanese. Shinidi. Something like that.
And then they go get food in the common block, which is expensive.
That's the everybody laughs together ending.
Where everybody knows your name.
I was actually thinking more of like, I don't know. Do you remember Arthur?
Yes, of course I remember.
The cartoon.
Every day when you're walking down the street, you stop and think. Yeah, of course I remember Arthur. Who doesn't?
Everybody ends up laughing together at the end of every episode of Arthur, just as a way of
yeah, that's a good point.
Just as a way of reinforcing that everyone is they've all learned whatever lesson needs to be learned in the episode. They're all on the same page. They're all friends again.
Yeah.
After maybe there's been some sort of conflict.
You mean people would just do that? They would just go
lie
on the internet and lie?
In this episode of Planet Taste, the same thing happens. Like they all end up laughing together as they head off towards the common block where they're going to get, expensive food and
they make
chuckle about how much of an asshat
joke at
Colin is.
Tanabe's expense.
They do?
That's why they're laughing. They're flying away and she's like, she says, "You're paying, aren't you, Hashi?" And he says, "No, it comes out of your
severance pay."
You're coming out of your severance pay. Yeah. That's why they're laughing. It's not like
as in she's gonna get fired because she punched the guy. Oh my god, why didn't I make that connection? But they still all end up laughing together. I was like, I don't know how I feel about the episode ending this way.
I'm fine with it.
All right, well,
I liked it. I like the episodes. It's a good show.
Good show.
Good cartoons.
Good shit,
My boy.
All right, are we done?
I think we are.
What time we got there?
We got a fresh and clean 1:11.
Oh, nice. We're gonna finish up slightly early. If the new baseline for our 3 seasonals and a classic is like 1 hour 15 minutes, we're gonna finish up a little early.
Cool. Is there anything?
Yeah, I guess we should figure out. Well, since we have a couple spare minutes here, what are we gonna do about the Promised Neverland? Because I really am gonna drop it.
Yeah.
Like even if there's only 2 episodes left, I can't be bothered.
It's just like I don't care.
Yeah. So what do you want to do about that?
I mean, we could replace it with something, but
we're at the end of a season.
Yeah, I mean, what could we possibly replace it with? Unless there's
no reason for us to catch up.
Unless there's an OVA of something we could do. Like I know there's a Violet Evergarden OVA or something.
I don't really. I've seen it.
Oh, I haven't.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was just like another episode of the show. It was, high quality artwork and sound.
We could do the last 3 episodes of Bakano.
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah, well then let's just not put anything there. Okay. We could do extra Planet Taste or whatever if we wanted, but there'd be a lot of the same show to talk about.
It would, yeah. We could just make next week's the next 2 episodes like really short.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm down for that.
Cool.
Maybe.
Are there any other cool anime you're watching this season?
Yeah, a few.
Any of them any good?
Dororo is pretty inconsistent. Dororo, I guess. I'll say it that way just so you know what I'm talking about.
Puppet Man.
Puppet Man? Oh, yeah. Artificial Limb.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. It's pretty inconsistent. A lot of people seem to love it, but it has some like extreme clunkers. Rinshi Ekoda-chan is pretty good. The 3-minute short with a bunch of different directors on every episode. The art style is always totally different. It's about a woman, like an office worker, who also works at a hostess club, I think, at night. She has a bunch of different jobs. She's a temp worker everywhere. And whenever she gets home, she takes off all her clothes and she's nude. That's the show. She's like really quirky and carefree, free-spirited. There's no actual nudity.
Right, yeah, it's Japan nudity.
It's all like
just
stylized.
like shapes.
Yeah. Well, that's what animation is.
Shapes and no
That's what animation is.
I mean like shapes and no details.
Yeah.
Details.
But that's pretty fun. And then Hulaing Babies, which is by Fukushima Gainax or Gaina as it's called now. I don't know. But that's pretty interesting too. That's another short series. These days I'm more into the like weird semi-artsy stuff.
Getting into that hipster anime stage.
Pretty much. I mean,
when you started listening to Radiohead.
There's nothing obscure about Radiohead.
It's the Radiohead equivalent of anime.
Not really. Not at all. Radiohead's like one of the world's most beloved bands. Let's be real.
I guess no one I know listens to Radiohead then.
Yeah, but millions upon millions of people do. They're so influential.
Neutral Milk Hotel?
That's a little more obscure.
Yeah.
I love you, Jesus Christ.
Wasn't there an anime about Yoshimi, or wasn't there going to be an anime about Yoshimi battles the pink robots?
No, that was going to be a play, like a stage play written by Aaron Sorkin.
Oh, right. I thought for some reason it was going to be an anime.
No, but that would be dope as fuck. I'm down for that.
Yeah, you could do like a Japanese watercolor animation style.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, this is the end of the rambling section of the anime podcast. Tune in next week when we talk about 3 good shows instead of 3 good shows, but with a shorter format.
Yeah. See you guys later.
Bye.